Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to England once again and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. Now, neither of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before. Both of these guys are relatively new additions to the English beer scene, but I've been hearing very, very good things about them. They've been getting a lot of good press and the English beer tubers have told me that these are two breweries I really need to check out. If memory serves me correctly, I have had a beer on tap from the home brewery in this case, but I've never had anything from the away brewery actually. So yeah, this I think should be a really good opportunity to introduce both breweries to you here on the channel. And in the future, we will need to do an individual review for each of the breweries actually as well. But yeah, needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this brewery then, for the home side of things, we are going to go to Canterbury in Kent, in the southeast of England. So big shout out to my friend Craig at Kent Beer Reviews. I'll try to remember to put the link to his channel in the video description below. Go and check out his videos. But like I say, Canterbury in Kent, and we're going to have a look at my first beer from Floc Brewing. So this one is called Everytime the Sun Comes Up. It comes in at 6.6% ABV, and this one is a New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and it's brewed in collaboration with Rivington Brewing Company, who come from the little village of Rivington near Chorley, which is to the northwest of Manchester in Lancashire in the north of England. So yeah, this should be pretty cool. As I say, neither brewery has featured on the channel before, but both have been getting some very good press in recent times. It's always nice to introduce you to some of the lesser known and kind of newer English breweries here on the channel as well, because they've got a really thriving scene over there at the moment actually. But yeah, this beer was bought at Kiosk over in Copenhagen, and they seem to get a regular supply of both Rivington and Floc. So we'll see about getting another beer from each of these guys in the future to review for you as well. But let's crack on with this one then and see what we have. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Floc Brewing and from Rivington Brewing Company. Very first time either of these breweries are featuring on the channel, of course, but it will not be the last. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated, and you can of course go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. Your home county, state, province, prefecture, whatever you like, use that and you will find some beers popping up from there. And you can of course check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the English playlist. And yeah, we will continue to add to that in the future. But let's have a little look at my brewery notes then, and we'll kick off with Floc Brewing, since these guys are the home brewery in this instance. So yeah, let's have a wee look at this. So Floc Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Canterbury in Kent, and the company was founded back in 2020 by Ross Shields. So Ross has a background as a photographer, and he also worked in advertising a little bit from what I understand as well, but he said that he just kind of came to the realization that he wasn't happy with his work. So after travelling for a while and having tried a good few beers along the way, he took up home brewing when he got home, and he started brewing just a few hundred litres in his garage. But he took a course with the Institute of Brewing and Distilling, and he got some experience in a few breweries such as Hamerton in London before he decided that he wanted to turn professional, and that kind of kicked in for him when the first COVID lockdown kicked in actually. But he initially started out with the company, you know, doing some cuckoo, gypsy brewing, whatever you want to call it, but they quickly started searching for their own home. So they'd originally been searching around the kind of Margate area, but then they found a unit in Canterbury which was 7,000 square feet. This was in the Windsheep Industrial Estate. This came to them in about September or so of 2021. But they say this is an ideal location with regard to the train stations in the town centre. It's only about 10 minutes walk from, you know, the west or the east or the centre or the city centre itself. So good location in that sense. And the brewery itself is equipped with a 3,000 litre brew kit. They've got an on-site tap room there as well, and they've got a food truck that serves pizza. So it sounds like this might be a place I need to go and visit with Craig at some point actually. So maybe an out and about video there. Could be very, very nice. But yeah, as of October 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 45 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and they do a variety of different styles. They've got quite a few New England Hazy IPAs. I think the beer I tried from them initially was a lager, which was very nice. and yeah, they've got a few other kind of darker beers and things in there as well. So yeah, these guys, like I say, have been getting a lot of positive press in recent times, and it is one of my good friend Craig's local breweries too. So it's kind of cool to feature it on the channel from that perspective as well. But maybe I need to arrange an out and about video with Craig at Floc at some stage. That would be quite fun. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Floc Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website, follow them on their usual social media, and of course you can check out the Untappd page to learn more about some of the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on to the away side of things, Rivington Brewing. So as I've mentioned to you already, Rivington Brewing are based in the little village of Rivington near Chorley in Lancashire, which is northwest of Manchester in the kind of northern part of England. But the company was founded back in 2014 by brothers-in-law Ben Stubbs and Mike Richardson. But they started the brewery together on home farm on Horrobin Lane, and Mike is apparently the 10th generation to run his family farm. So it's actually a dairy farm, and they've got about 170 cattle there, which is pretty damn impressive. But when they started home brewing, they got some really good feedback on their beer, and then they decided to go for it and turn professional to diversify the farming business. Of course, farming is pretty damn difficult these days with, you know, all the supermarkets kind of manipulating prices and so on. But yeah, they started brewing on a 3BBL kit in an old barn on the farm, and they were producing beers in all styles. They did a lot of different things, but they were doing kegs, casks and bottles. But they proved to be really, really popular, and the brewery began to build their sales over the kind of short term, and then they expanded them over the next few years. But fast forward to 2019, and they decided to convert a building on the farm into a tap room, and this had an initial capacity of about 30 people. And then in 2021, they made plans to expand this, and they upgraded their brew kit to a 10 BBL kit, and they also added a canning line as well. And I think it's over the last kind of year or so, actually, since they started canning their beers, that Rivington have been really getting kind of out there a little bit more and have been getting hyped up a wee bit. At least that's when I saw their beers appearing in Scotland and people saying they were really good. Kind of similar thing happened with Overtone, of course. They got their cans down to England, and then, you know, it just went from there. But yeah, Rivington have been getting a lot of positive press in recent times. A lot of people say they make some of the best New England IPAs in England at the moment. So yeah, I will need to try one of their own at some point in the fairly near future. But they do a whole host of different things. You'll see darker beers, sour beers, I think, as well, and yeah, New England hazies and lagers and stuff like this. So Rivington Brewing are one of the ones that you definitely need to check out if you get the chance. But as of October 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 145 different kinds of beer, and like I say, there's a whole host of different styles in there as well. So yeah, that's everything I can really tell you about Rivington Brewing. If you want to learn more, again, check out the brewery website, check out their social media, and of course you can have a little look at the Untappd page to learn more about their different beers. And when it comes to these two breweries, you can have a little look at some of my beer tubing colleagues and see what they have. I think probably when it comes to Floc, Craig of Kent Beer Reviews is most likely your best bet there. When it comes to Rivington, probably Peter the Clueless Drinker or maybe Rob of Hop Scene are the two that are most local to Rivington, of course. But yeah, lots of good English beer tubers out there, and I'm sure others have done reviews of Rivington as well. But yeah, that, as I say, is everything I can really tell you about these breweries. Let's crack on and have a wee look at the beer itself. So like I said to you, this one is a 6.6% New England IPA. This one is hopped with Strata and Mosaic. Both hops are American, and they come in roughly about the 14% alpha acid mark. Mosaic is going to give you lovely tangerine notes, whereas Strata is going to give you this kind of melony and slightly strawberry type note, actually. It's kind of interesting from that perspective. But yeah, should be quite interesting. But as you can see, lovely artwork on this one. There you can see at the top, there is the Rivington brewery symbol on the sun, and there you have Floc as well, actually. So I guess the fact that it's called Every Time the Sun Comes Up, it's maybe a reference to the fact that, you know, you have to get up, if you're running a farm, you have to get up really early. You have to do the same if you're brewing as well. So yeah, 440 milliliter can, this one, 6.6% ABV. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. So let's do this. Feels like a wee while actually since I've reviewed a single IPA. A lot of the ones that I've been having recently have been doubles. But yeah, anyway. So there we are. Let me just line the can up so it looks nice again. So anyway, as you can see, This beer has poured pretty much as you would expect of a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, before the head disappears, you can see that this beer has poured with about a finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of perfect white head. It's got a little bit of a creamy colour to it as well, but you've got one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But I mean, overall, this beer does look pretty damn nice actually. I really like how this one appears. In terms of its colour, it's very bright yellow colour, this one, almost like a mango skin or something like that. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on one, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect the colour of your beer as well. But when it comes to New England hazy IPAs, quite often you don't have to care about that, to be quite honest. But yeah, it certainly looks pretty damn nice. In terms of the level of haziness in this one as well, I have to say for a 6.6%er, the haziness in this beer is pretty damn impressive. The level of haze depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree the yeast that you use. There's no real rule about, going further up the alcohol scale and you get more haze. It can vary from brewery to brewery and recipe to recipe, but definitely in terms of a 6.6%er, the level of soupiness and gloopiness on this one is pretty impressive actually. But yeah, as I say, one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a couple of little ones just making their way up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, nothing particularly surprising about this beer's appearance when you consider what style it is. So I think we should go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one before we taste it. So let's do that. Yeah. This one's quite nice actually. As I've always said, for me there are 6 different directions a New England IPA can take. They can be more kind of yeasty and farmhousey or Riley and grainy. Those are more common in American brewed New Englands, I have to say. But then you get oaty creaminess, wheaty bitiness, barley malt bread, and you also get sweetness. For me, this one actually shows you a little bit of all of those 4 latter characters actually. So for me, you get a little bit of the wheaty bitiness. You can get some of the oats, but a bit more barley malt, and there is just a wee bit of the kind of. You do get a little bit of yeastiness and a little touch of sweetness out of this one, but it smells very nice. I have to say, it's quite a, bitey floral New England IPA, but there's also a good little bit of juiciness in there as well. I mean, I really like how this beer goes together. So it gets a thumbs up from me on the aroma side of things. Yeah, let's just break that down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth though. So, backbone of the beer, absolutely, you get some of that nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. So that's good. Yeah, a little bit of fresh white bready bread crust. On top of that, there's a nice little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing, which I like. So fresh white bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker. Those are kind of forming the backbone of the beer. But above that, you've got quite a lot of fluffy, fresh white bread. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Yeah, and on top of that, you've got a little bit of a more kind of dense wheaty sort of thing as well. So there's a little bit of a more kind of, you've got some nice fluffy white bread. You've also got a little bit of a dense wheaty sort of thing in there as well. And the wheat actually at the back of the nose, you do get a little bit of bitiness out of the wheat, which is quite nice. You can smell a little bit of the more airy, yeasty, farmhousey notes in there, like that sort of more woody, bready kind of thing too. This beer does give you a little bit of that at the back of the nose. But then on top of that, you get a little bit of oaty character out of this one as well. So you can smell the oats. As I've always said, oats are a good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The creamier they are, the fresher it is, the slightly drier they are, the older it is. This beer, you can smell, it has got a bit of creaminess to it, but you are starting to get a little bit of the dryness in there. I think, Shiosk always look after their beers and they're always pretty damn fresh, but you can smell this one, I think, is maybe around the kind of 6-week old mark. And it's an import from England, so we have to consider that as well. We're not going to get this beer as fresh in Denmark as we are as you would in England. But yeah, so this beer for me, yeah, you get a little bit of that oaty creaminess, but you can smell a little bit of dryness in there too. And I'm also getting just a little touch of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type note that you get. I suspect Golden Promise is in this, I really do. But yeah, malty side of this beer is very nice. Let's go on to the hoppy side of things then. So, for me, tiny little bit of earthiness in there. That's going to come from the mosaic, I think, too. But the green component for me is like quite a bright floral note, and you've also got some nice zesty grassiness in there. And the thing to remember with New England IPAs, or with IPAs in general, you have three types of hopping. Early edition, in the first hour of your wort boil, gives you mainly bitterness. Late edition, last half hour of your wort boil, little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma. And then dry hopping, pretty much all flavour and aroma. When it comes to these three types of hopping, West Coast IPAs use all three, or at least they did back in the day. That's why they had the big bitterness. New England IPAs rely on the latter two. And when it comes to your green component, when you only use late edition and dry hopping, the green component is very bright. It's not so deep and dank as you would have had with the West Coast. That's the thing to remember. But the green component with this one's very bright and very floral. You've got a good little bit of zesty grassiness in there as well. And just, it goes together pretty damn nicely, I have to say. So gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. Yeah. On the fruity side of things then, if you know these hops, it kind of gives you what you'd expect. For me, you've got that quite strong melony note from the Strata. Of course, Strata's a pretty distinctive hop that way. You get a little bit of that. Yeah, you've got a little bit of an almost pink grapefruity character from it. I always find Citra gives you a little bit of, not Citra, Strata gives you a little bit of that kind of brighter pink grapefruit. So at the back of the fruity side of things, there's a bit of that. Big oily melon, but quite powerful. And then you also have, how would you say? Yeah, kind of power, like oily melony character. Yeah, oily sort of melon character, as I say, and then at the front of the nose, you get that big juicy kind of tangerine quality as well. So it's quite straightforward in a sense. It gives you everything you expect of these hops. The fruity side of the beer is not surprising you. You get the pink grapefruit, the melon, a bit of the kind of tangerine orange. The only thing I don't really pick up in the nose is the kind of strawberry note that you can sometimes get from Strata. So we'll need to see if that comes out in the flavour. But for me, yeah, it's melon, tangerine, and a little bit of a kind of bright pink grapefruit. But aroma wise, it does go together very, very nicely. So yeah, let's see, put it together. Just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck into it. I think it is about time for us to try this beer now. So yeah, this one is the Everytime the Sun Comes Up, a 6.6% New England IPA, brewed at Floc Brewery in Canterbury, in Kent, in collaboration with Rivington from Lancashire, both in England. First time either of these breweries feature on the channel. So let's get stuck in and see what we have. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that's pretty damn solid, I have to say. First impression, big, thick, creamy and smooth IPA, this one. For a 6.6%er, as I say, the level of smoothness and things that you get out of this is pretty damn impressive. But yeah, this one, it's actually, the impression you get of this one is quite oaty and creamy. It's also got a good little bit of wheat in there, and yeah, you've got the barley malt just kind of thickening the whole beer out. I do really like how this one goes about its business. Let's say it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, let's break this down then and see what we have. So, it's really nice. This beer, I can see if this is how both of these breweries are doing their New England IPAs, then if this is how they're both doing their New England IPAs, then I think it's it shows you why they've been getting a lot of positive press, because this beer is pretty damn solid. Yeah, I do like how this goes together. So middle third of your palate then. The middle third of your palate with this beer, you've got some really nice, you do have some really nice little bits of kind of bread crust forming the backbone of the beer there. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woodiness as well. It's just a tiny little bit of woody flavour. But then on top of that bread crust, there's a more kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. So yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. Um, yeah, so yeah, nice little bit of bread crust, a little touch of wood, some Jacob's cream cracker. You really get that crackery note out of this beer the further into the aftertaste that you go. So yeah, that's really interesting for sure too. But on top of the kind of crackery notes, you've got that thicker, more dense. You do have that kind of fluffy white bread, but it's got a little bit of density in there too. Then you've got that more you've got that thicker, kind of more dense wheaty character as well. The wheat in this beer, it's kind of interesting because it actually has a little bit of zip to it, but at the same time, it's kind of smoothing out the whole beer, which I'm enjoying. So yeah, this is a really interesting combination. This one, I do think I need to try one of Floc's own beers, and then the same with Rivington, and just see what they're like, because you can always notice different things. You know, for example, Verdant, their beers are quite distinctive. You know, Track have the same thing. You start to notice certain things that the brewers like in the recipes. It's kind of cool. But yeah, this one is really the thickness and stuff, and the smoothness and creaminess you get out of this beer for a 6%er for me is quite impressive. Because you know, when I've been trying a lot of the Swedish and Danish ones recently, they've been quite you know, you have to go to the kind of the doubles and triples sometimes to get this level of kind of smoothness and creaminess. So this is a nice sort of change of pace actually. So yeah, this does go together really nicely from that in that sense. So as I say, you get that fluffy but still dense white bready layer. On top of that, the kind of thicker, more dense wheaty notes, and then yeah, above that you get some of the nice oaty character in there. So you've got a lovely big kind of thick oaty note out of the beer, and then as you move further, in the dead century palate, you can feel there's that thick, kind of slightly creamy oaty note, and as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more kind of. It does show you a little bit of the drier side of the oats, but then in the dead centre of your palate, you've got that little circle there where you get a wee bit of the kind of Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and that, of course, is the alcohol side of the beer. So when it comes to this one, it's not showing anything that we haven't seen before from New England's, but it's just really well. It is just really well brewed actually. And as I say, you know, I have been getting a bit bored of New England's in recent times because there's so many of them, and not enough breweries are doing West Coasts or black IPAs and things like that anymore. But this one has been a really nice surprise. I think this is a really well brewed beer, this one, and it's, as I say, the level of thickness and things, the way the malt base in this one, the kind of fullness of the malt base in this beer, for it when you consider its ABV, I think is pretty damn impressive. So thumbs up to both breweries for this. So yeah, I like that about this one. I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. So, back third of the palate then, the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of bready build up there. Base of the back third of your tongue has a little bit of a more, yeah, it has a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty kind of note there, and it's a wee bit more grainy. On top of that, there's a little bit of a kind of dry, crackery sort of note as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of a more kind of dry, crackery sort of note coming out of this one, which I do enjoy. Um, yeah, so yeah, a little bit of dry, crackery character. Um, to say that gets, it's a wee bit drier, but then above that, the white bready note the white bready layer is a bit taller and a bit more airy and fluffy. Then above that, you get the wheat, and the wheat is showing you it's more kind of bitey, zippy characteristic on that back third of the tongue. Then above all of that, yeah, you have a really nice. Above all of that, you've got the more kind of airy, yeasty sort of thing too. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. Absolutely, the way that this beer kind of pieces together is very, very nice. Yeah, so yeah, more airy, yeasty sort of thing with this beer. Um, so yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, the yeasty notes in this one, they take a wee bit of time to kind of develop as well. So you get this kind of airy, more slightly woody, farmhousey kind of bread on top of the wheat in the back part of your palate with this beer. But definitely back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down, squashes together, and you get all of these kind of nice notes. But let's look at the hoppy side of things then. So green component, back corners of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. That's the mosaic that's going to give you that. And as you come further forward, you can feel the beer gets progressively more floral, and you get that nice kind of bright floral aromaticity coming out of the beer. So yeah, progressively more floral, nice bright aromaticity. Then round the front curve of your palate, you've got that lighter grassy more grassy sort of thing, and there's a more kind of grassy, zesty character coming out of the beer too. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes together in that sense. Yeah, the green component for me does work quite well, but this beer gets a bit more floral and almost spicy the further into the aftertaste that you go. But let's look at the kind of the fruity side of the beer, the front third of your palate, and see what that has. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build. There's a distinctly white bread note this time, a little bit of an oaty character. Then the base of the front third of your palate, yeah, a little bit bready, a little bit of a more. You do get some of the kind of smooth oaty character in there as well, in fairness. But then above that, you get that nice kind of oily bubble where the fruity, juicy esters just roll their way out of the beer. And the fruity side of this thing is pretty nice, I have to say. So let's just go with that. At the back of that front third of your palate, you get the nice kind of how would you say? You do get that nice kind of little bit of pink, like stronger but bright pink grapefruit. And as you move forward from that, you really start to get that powerful kind of melon. I always find for me, and remember this, beer and flavours are always very subjective. Different people will perceive things differently. Um, but yeah, for me, the kind of melony notes that you get in this beer are quite melon always dominates for me. You've got cashmere hop gives you this kind of melon note. Strata kind of can do the same. You have to be careful with these two hops in my mind. But yeah, a little bit of pink grapefruit at the back of the front third of your palate. As you move forward, you get that more kind of slightly dominant melony type quality. And then as you move into the middle of the front third of your palate, you can feel the tangerine orange really start to come out on this one. So the front half of that front third of your palate really is all about the mosaic and the juicy tangerine oranges coming out of this beer. So yeah, the back half of your palate is strata. The back half of that front third is strata. The front half of the front third, can't speak these days. That is most definitely mosaic. The further into the aftertaste you go, you get little hints of the strawberry notes from. You do get little hints of the strawberry notes from the. How would you say, from the strata in this one? But yeah, it works really well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business in that sense, I think, is really nice. You get a lovely juicy fruity character out of this the further into it that you go. So yeah, I think it does go. Yeah, I think this beer, for me, it works really really well, and it gets it does get a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, the fruitiness in this beer is really nice, just very very smooth actually. So yeah, Strata and Mosaic. I don't know how often I've had that combination right enough. Or at least well on its own. Probably had it along with a few other things right enough. But yeah, it's an interesting mix, that the kind of mango and tangerine flavors. But a solid New England IPA this one. So gets a thumbs up from me regardless. To round off this review then, a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer, it really is kind of pushing to the top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. This is quite a creamy New England IPA for me. Like I say, the thickness of the mouthfeel in this one's quite impressive for a 6.6%er. IBU wise, I think this is a fairly standard, 25, 30 IBU New England. There's nothing surprising about that. The malt base, as we said, has a good bit of smoothness, good bit of thickness, and a little touch of sweetness. And then you've also got some nice juicy, fruity characters with this beer as well. So yeah, I really like how this one, I do really like how this one goes together actually. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, and it does make me curious to try more beers from both of these breweries. But I think at this point we can leave it at that, to be honest with you. So yeah, interesting beer for sure. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from both Floc and Rivington as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the fairly near future. But once again, thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out theirs at the breweries, and we will see you again in more reviews. So this was the Every Time the Sun Comes Up 6.6% New England IPA brewed at Floc in Canterbury in Kent in collaboration with Rivington, from just close to Chorley in Lancashire to the northwest of Manchester in England. Till the next time, slàinte, skål, cheers, see you guys very, very soon.